Welcome in, everyone. I am the Crypto Bull God, and this is all in the charts. If you appreciate the content, I would highly appreciate a thumbs up. Drop me a comment. Share how you're doing this evening. Share how you're doing this morning, this afternoon, wherever you're located. And make sure you click that bell icon for all notifications to know when I go live each and every single weekday, which if you think about it in this crypto world is a difficult thing to do. No matter what the price action is, CBG is here with logic and facts about the charts. Guys, really appreciate the super chats here. You know, never expected, but always appreciated. Todd and Greg, both of you guys, man. Strong supporters of the channel. I can't express to you how much it means to me. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys consistently show up and express appreciation. It really means a lot. Oh, and I see a let's go. Let's fucking go, Black Oil. Rory, welcome in. Now, guys, if you are following me on Instagram, you would know today I'm getting a notification on my phone from Domino's Pizza, which is never a good sign. CBG, Domino's Pizza, if CBG is finishing an evening and maybe has had a little too many old fashions, Domino's Pizza might be getting a call. Anyway, I just saw that pop up. If you're following me on Instagram at Crypto Bull God, you would know that my day started off really well today, guys. You know, something personal I'll share with you that at least meant a lot to me. Donkey, welcome in. You know, as you know, I had my surgery back in early November and was out of commission for a while. You know, it was a very, very, very challenging time in my life. Mentally, most challenging thing I've ever been through. And just to kind of look back on that time and know that because I just stayed, as hard as it was, I had days that were pretty rough, but just stayed focused on every single day. Here I am, December, January, February, almost 4 months, not even 4 months out. And no, December, January, February, March, more than 4 months, almost 5 months out. And I back squatted today 365 with ease. I had 1 or 2 left in the tank. I could have gotten 6 or 7. I got 5 and threw 385 on my back. Got that 3 times. Could have gotten it 4. But I felt really good this morning. It really got my week off to a good start. Plus, I saw a good buddy at the gym, and him and I were the only ones occupying this small room down there, doing squats and all sorts of other fun exercises. So it was a hell of a start to the morning, and feeling good. Also got a work presentation out of the way, which felt good. But the week is going well, and for me personally, in more ways than I can express to you in my messaging today, April is shaping up to perhaps be a pretty significant month for me outside of crypto. Of course, crypto is shaping up to be a significant month in April, but on a personal note, hopefully we'll revisit what I'm staying here and being non-specific, or what's the word? I'm losing the word. I'm being... I can't think of the word, but I'm specifically not stating why for me personally, but hopefully I can revisit that. Juan, welcome in. Good to see you here, my friend. Oof, always good to see you. By the way, Oof, just wanted to let you know that you and I are the proud owners of Meme AI. So I'm right there with you, brother. Making me fucking bull. Let's take a look at the S&P, actually. I don't mind taking a look. Yeah, Oof, and I'm not talking about crypto, but again, I'm being non-transparent for a reason. Cryptic is the word, XLM boy. Cryptic is the word. I recognize your name. Welcome in, Chris. Good to see you. You know what? Let's take a look at the S&P. I'm going to throw things off here for a moment because I have not been close to the charts, guys, today. I've had way too much going on. So let's take a look at the S&P. Oof is saying that he's so fucking bullish on the S&P. Oh, dear God, yes. Let's see. Yeah. The S&P just keeps churning higher. Guys, I just want to reiterate this. When you look at, whether you're looking at traditional stock markets or whether you're looking, this is a monthly view that I have up on the chart, whether you're looking at traditional stock markets or you're looking at cryptocurrencies, doomsdayers have been here, they've been here, they were certainly here, okay, and they're still up here. At some point, pick point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My whole point is, I've been saying there's going to be a big meltdown, but you would have missed about 2 years worth of price action to the upside, a year and a half, if you were a doomsdayer for the past 18 months. Again, I'm not laughing at the notion that we're not going to see a massive correction. We will. I'm laughing at the notion that the negativity has been there for a year and a half when on this channel we've been saying melt up before melt down. Go back to my video, October 2022. I was calling for a $100,000 Bitcoin in 2023. Now, will I be off by 5 or 6 months? Sure. But the premise behind that statement was that we were going a fuck ton higher in 2023, and sure shit we did. Where did we end the year in 2023 on Bitcoin? We ended the year... Bitcoin opened in January at 44,000. So we certainly went a fuck ton higher when we were back at 15. But anyway, I digress. Oof, thank you for pointing out this chart. The S&P looks great. Now, what is the purpose of today's video? Well, the purpose is for me to spend 10 seconds and explain to you the horrible thumbnail that was there. That was me in a very quick fashion trying to throw on a thumbnail that differed from my traditional thumbnail. So, yeah, not the best looking thumbnail, but no clickbait here, ladies and gentlemen. No clickbait. Never clickbait. What we are going to do today is we are going to very simplistically, very logically, and very straightforward show why $120,000 to $140,000 is a realistic blow off top, working backwards. What do I mean by that? Let's get in. Let's have a little bit of fun here. So as you know, I have this general trajectory drawn out in Bitcoin so far. Now, I've had this here since September of 2023, and it has been working out perfectly. And you can see that I have a top up here at, for fun, I put in a specific dollar value, 125,368, right? But I've been sharing prior charts, and we've gone through this in different videos. I've pointed out price targets at 110, 150 at the highest level, 130, 120. I've thrown out all these different price levels that make sense for a topping area. And again, if you haven't watched my topping signals video, make sure you check that out. That is the most critical thing. You want those 6 independent, historically significant data points to start to flash green before you ever consider selling your Bitcoin and knowing that altcoins are going to be topping shortly thereafter. Focus less on the dollar value and time. But for the purposes of today's video, did want to highlight the fact that, kind of still where I'm at is I'm eyeing 120, 130. There's another point of confluence that sort of lines up with 120 to 130 being a topping signal. Now, let's get into that right now. Let's take off some of these. This is a weekly chart on Bitcoin, okay? So what am I specifically speaking to? Well, first off, I want to identify a zone. And the zone is, 31.8. It's not 32, it's 31.8. That is correct. And I believe this is 28, correct? 30? Where did I come up with 28? I had 28 in my head. My God, my analysis is falling apart. No, it's not. Is it here? No, that's 25. Where was I coming up with 28? Oh, right there. Perfect. I knew when I looked at this, I saw 28 to 32. Yes, 28. We'll say... I like it right there. 20... I mean, that's 28 on the hair, right? Closing at 28,050. We're going to make this, technically, if I wanted to make this more precise, we'd make it $28,000 and $28,050. But we're just going to make it $28,000, or we're going to make this 31.8, because it really is 31.8. That one I don't want to round. Now, for this exercise, you can pull out your TI-30X. Of course, this calculator I've had in my possession for quite some time throughout the actuarial exams. If I think about it too much, it makes me a little nauseous. But you want to have a little calculator. Unless you think you can do this math in your head, which even for me, I can't do the math in my head. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now, the first thing I have illustrated here is that there's a key area of price confluence between $31,800 and $28,000. We're going to come back to that. But the question I want to first ask ourselves, I want to go back in time, just like Conan O'Brien. I want to go all the way to the year 2000. That shit's been stuck in my head ever since I brought that up at first. But I do want to go back in time. I want to take a look at the blow-off tops, and I want to ask the question, how hard did Bitcoin correct? So let's take a look at the 2013 blow-off top. Okay, these are going to be rough figures. We're not going to be exact, right? That's as long as you get a relative value here. You don't have, whether it's, look, in this case, we had a 86.83% correction. Whether it's 87 or 86, we're splitting hairs. We're going to say an 87% correction, okay? So 87% correction all the way down to this price wick right here, 87, all right? Let's fast forward through time. Of course, I was here for this descending triangle. Anybody remember Crypto Kirby? Guys, I go way back on YouTube. I told you, I've been in this space for a long time. Do you know I've been in this space so long, that, what the hell is his name? Carl the Moon. You know Carl the Moon? I don't know if he's still doing YouTube. I have no clue. I unsubscribed literally years ago. When Carl the Moon started off on YouTube, he actually was a really level-headed, sensical individual. I used to watch his YouTube channel, but I'm talking 2018. Yeah, that's how far back I go. And then at some point he went off the rails and I lost track of him a very long time ago. But anyway, I was on top of this descending triangle way back in the CBG days before he was even CBG. So if we go from the top here all the way down to the $3,000 level where I left Bitcoins on dressers of certain family members, you can see that we had an 84% correction, okay? Let's fast forward through the time here and see. This is our... Now, this is debatable here. Here, the impulsive top was here, and so you could say we had roughly a 76% correction. But if you're measuring from the top here to the bottom, you know, you're looking at a 77.5. So how about this? We're splitting hairs. Why don't we just call it a 77% correction, okay? Again, just to paraphrase what I just said, the point that you're measuring from, we could debate for purposes of this analysis if we should measure from the impulsive top, which I actually argue we should measure from, or the corrective structure up here, which was part of our all-time high. Because again, remember, if you're new here, this whole thing was a correction. This is called an expanded flat correction. It's an irregular ABC correction within an Elliott wave. So if the whole goal here, follow the logic, right? It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, 76, 77%. But I do want to make a point. If the whole point within this analysis is to evaluate how much the market has corrected, how much Bitcoin has corrected from impulsive top to the bottoming point, then we really should be measuring from $64,000. Because if this correction was not an irregular flat, you know, this would have been, you know, lower than the 64. So regardless, we're going to call it 77%. Hopefully that explanation made sense. Now, we're going to fast forward through time. Theoretically, there's a couple different conclusions. Well, there's a couple different conclusions that we can come to, and then we can theorize in terms of the magnitude of a prospective correction in 2000 and let's say 25 or 26. Okay. Probably I'll just guesstimate right now that the market bottoms in 2026. So, probably should have gone to the bathroom before the live stream. Feeling the urge to tinkle. That is the technical term for peeing. Probably wasn't a good idea. Much longer is this live stream? All right, I'm a big boy. I got this. I'm a winner. Okay, so couple things going on here to observe. First off, and I am going to put out a video to raise a couple key points that you guys need to keep in mind these next several months and going into 2025, because there will be a lot of ridiculousness spread throughout this community that is nonsensical. One of the things that will be widespread within the community is, because there's ETFs involved and there's just big players involved, we're never going to see a big correction in Bitcoin again. We're just never going to see it. Bitcoin's immune to big corrections. Well, until that actually plays out in the data, I call bullshit. Okay, we have had an 87, an 84, and a 77% correction. So until proven otherwise, until something fundamentally changes within the chart, and this is why I love charts. Charts are black and white. You know, it's factual information, and you can make inferences based off of it. Love it. It's math. All right, that is who I am inside as a person. So takeaway number one is every single impulsive top, I have 3 of them shown here, every impulsive top has resulted in a correction between 87 to 77%. Takeaway number one. Takeaway number two, the decreases 87 to 84 to 77, it's decreasing, right? So it is fair. It is a fair assumption and statement to make that moving forward, we should anticipate some correction to some extent. The correction that we see after the next impulsive top should be to a lesser magnitude, right? Which intuitively should make sense because of why? Well, think about it. To some degree, risk is beginning to decrease for Bitcoin because the market cap is getting higher, right? Just like, down here we went from $100 up to 20,000. We only went from 3,000 up to 64 up here, right? The rate of return here was much more significant than here. Why? There was much less opportunity for upside at a higher market value. Just like with the corrections, there should, in theory, be a lower degree of volatility to the downside, right? Volatility is still wide for Bitcoin, but it's beginning to narrow a little bit. The same thing will happen to Ethereum. The same thing will happen to Solana. The same thing will happen to Caspa many years out from now, right? Caspa is still a mid-market. But many years from now, it's the same thing. So there's 2 takeaways. 1, significant decreases are here, and 2, they're diminishing over time. So now what we can do is we can theorize that when we have our blow-off top, we're going to see, I'm saying something that's in the ballpark of 77%. I think something around, a 73 to 77% level still makes sense to me. So why don't we take the midpoint? We can take a look at different data points perhaps, but let's take the midpoint of 73 to 77 and say a 75% correction. 75% correction, which is very reasonable. It's less than all 3 of these, and it's still closer in magnitude to this while lower. Just like these 2, it diminished in time, but they were still relatively close to each other. I think we'll still see something relatively close to 77. It's not going to be like a 68 or 70% correction. It'll be higher than that. So I think 75%, whether it's 74 or 73, 75% is a very fair estimation of in terms of what degree of correction we're going to see at an impulsive top. Now, how can we use that information if we infer that 75% is a reasonable mid-range target to shoot for? How can we use that information to work backwards to come up with a blow-off top high? Here is how we do that. This $28,000 to $32,000 range, and really I'm calling it 31.8, I am willing to bet with you today. You can make note of this, and we can come back and have a conversation in a year and a half. I am willing to bet with you today around this area is where the market is bottoming. You hear what I'm saying? The market will be bottoming somewhere between 28 to 31.8. This is going to be, in fact, can I go out to 2026? Oh, I can. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's do this. I'm sure I'll still be live streaming a couple years from now. God willing, I don't know. I've had some things happen in my life I never thought would happen to me, as healthy as an individual as I am. So, God willing, I'm here. Well, we'll draw this area right here. Okay, we'll call this the target zone, and we'll come back to it. But I believe this. You have to understand this area here, and we'll take a look at something else that provides further confluence to this idea. This area here, where are we at? Come on. Here we go. This area, and we spent, if you've been here on this live stream for a while, you know we've spent quite a bit of time talking. Look at all these price wicks, right? There was a lot of, once we broke this area, right, we told the story that we couldn't get back above it and we stayed below it. We knew we'd be down here for an extended period of time. Guys, I remember live streaming on this channel, because there's no other channel I live stream on. I don't know why I said that. I remember live streaming on this channel, and I remember back here all of the saltiness. Do you guys remember? I know Greg and Todd remember. I know Oof remembers. I know Track remembers. I know a lot of your DT. I know you remember. I know all of your names. Remember, I had a dream about all of you the other day with Bitcoin going up in one green candlestick on my 1990 TV in my parents' rec room up to $133,000. So I know all of you very well. This is how much I think about crypto. So it was no surprise while the saltiness was going on, we had problems with that area, right? Do you notice anything else about this price area? Well, once we broke through this price area, we never came back to backtest it as support. This is leading me to conclude that it is highly probable that we will come back and backtest this area. We will come back and backtest this area. And it would be funny to flag this video and come back to it and look at this in a year and a half's time or 2 years' time from now. I wonder how the hair will be looking at that point. But it would be interesting to look at that, because I guarantee you the narrative around that time frame, if we were to come back to this area like I'm hypothesizing, is that Bitcoin's going to break well down below to, I bet you the 10,000 targets will come up again. 20,000 and 10,000. In fact, 19,666, which is the prior all-time high, there's not a lot of price confluence. The prior confluence is at 15,000, really. So, wouldn't surprise me. There was another point I wanted to make. That's hilarious. That is the point I wanted to make. It's just so funny how price confluence works. Now, one of the questions you might be asking yourself is, CBG, why are you so confident we're going to come down to that specific range? Do you guys notice? Do you guys notice anything between these two blue lines? Similar premise applies, right? This was a major area of price confluence, right? The $20,000. When we got up to that area, look what happened. We didn't really battle this area much. We melted right through it and went up. So, intuitively, it made sense that at some point, we came back down and back tested this entire area and treated it as support and then continued moving up. It was like a magnet bringing price in. I am hypothesizing. Okay, we built our assumption number one where the rate of decreases. Okay, and the diminishing amount of decreases to go with the diminishing amount of volatility in a growing market cap asset like Bitcoin. Assumption number two is we are going to come back to a prior area of price confluence that has never been revisited once we broke it. We're coming back between 28 to 31.8. This will be an area that we're revisiting. And either I will look like a genius to all of you, or I will look like an absolute fool in 2 years' time. So we will see. Now, how am I using those two assumptions, those two major assumptions, really three, to arrive at a $120,000 to $140,000 price target? Well, the idea is by back testing these ranges and assuming a 75% correction, you can then work backwards, as I'm calling it, and you can solve for. It's like going back to algebra. And I know many of you loved algebra. Did you love word problems? Because I loved word problems. Did you have a favorite algebra teacher that just could not teach the material to you? You know, my view on that actually is quite oftentimes, I'm digressing, quite oftentimes it's not that you couldn't understand algebra. You didn't have the right teacher. You didn't have the teacher conveying things to you in terminology that you would understand. So I view it more on the teacher's fault than you. So don't feel bad if you didn't get algebra. Just a little life lesson from CBG. If I ever have children, they are going to be so thankful that I'm good at math, because no peer pressure on them to have that same love and affection for math. Anyway, let's get back to the charts. So what we can do is we can set up a mathematical equation to solve for our blow-off top. The theory is, again, we're coming back to this 28,000 to 31,800. Bring out your calculators. Take 28,000. I'm going to walk through this very slowly because I know not all of us are good with math, so I can respect that. Take $28,000, which is the lowest value here. $28,000 divided by the quantity of 1 minus 0.75. Some people can't do the subtraction in their head. It's 0.25. Now, if we divide $28,000 by 25%, which is 1 minus the 75%, that is the math that gets us to our impulsive top. At $28,000, that brings us up to $112,000 as our blow-off top. I think when I was doing the math earlier, I was using a 73% correction, which is why I had 120, so my apologies. Really, it's 112. All right. Whatever the fuck. Does it really fucking matter, guys? 112, 120, are you really going to squabble? So let's do this. Let's see if this actually works out. We're going to keep this posted on here, okay? So 125,368 is the fun target I put up there to see if I could call an exact dollar top, right? And then I'll be crowned Bitcoin king of the world. So $112,000. If we do the same thing at 31,800 and we divide that by 0.25, we come up with 127,200. So we'll do 127,200. Now, the video does have a thumbnail of 120 to 140. So what the hell is the deal? Well, when I originally plugged in these numbers, I believe what I said was the correction would be more in line with a 77% correction. So now if you wanted to put a wider band on this, you can see right now, this is our, let's do this. We're going to make this official. Let's see if this works out. Be kind of funny. You know, when you start to come up with projections where you're finding a lot of confluence, which there is a lot of confluence in the 120 to 130 area, certainly adds validity to it. So let's recognize that by utilizing a 75% correction, let's actually write this in here. Let's keep track of this. We're going to document this shit. Actuaries are big on documentation. 75%, okay? This is with a 75% correction if we hit this zone, okay? Now let's assume a 77% correction. So instead, if we look at $28,000 and we divide that by 1 minus 0.77, which is 0.23, we come up with 121. Let's draw this out. We'll do orange, okay? 121. We're just going to round up, okay? Or round down, actually. 700. 121,700, okay? And if we divide the 31,800, and we divide that by the 0.23, we come out to, essentially $140,000. We come out to $138,000 $300 rounded. Oop. So just based, I mean, guys, when you really think about what I did, I personally think it's a think outside the box view. And I think it's something that is interesting. I think it's very interesting. But when you think about what I did, how basic was that, right? You just had to understand price confluence, magnitude of changes, and then logically step through the math. That's all. But if we do get a 75 to 77% correction like we're anticipating, okay, based on history, and we assume that we're going to revisit a key level that has not been back tested, it is very reasonable to assume we're going to have a blow off top at some point between $112,000 and $138,300. We'll call it 140. Between 112 and 140. Did that math make sense? Did everybody follow that? Let me know if you have any questions. But that's how we got this. We'll do one more thing here. This is the blue line, right? Again, I tend to be more conservative. I think something more towards the 120 to 130, but yeah, so we will see. And then, of course, down here, that's when we have our massive correction. Guys, don't believe anything that you hear that we're never going to see a massive correction again. It's still one of the worst things. I don't want to get too far ahead here, but that's an emotional opinion. That's not based on chart data. All right, let's see what we got here. Any questions for me, guys? What did you think of the analysis? Was it something that anyone else has done with you? Oh, Crypto Kirby. I mentioned Crypto Kirby, and I think I sidetracked. Everybody remember Crypto Kirby? Because him and I both, when we evaluated the charts, I talk like him and I are like friends. No, but when he evaluated the chart, he was seeing what I saw. Descending triangle. I don't know whatever happened to that guy. Track, you still watch Call to the Moon? Really? He's still, man, I don't know what the fuck happened to that guy. I don't know, Greg. I think that's more... I'm not saying that that's not possible, your question on the gold ETF. I just think that structurally... I'm not saying there aren't things to take away from the fundamental aspect of the ETF and how that could influence price, when looking at gold versus Bitcoin. But again, I want to allow the charts to speak for themselves, unless if I'm starting to see a direct correlation playing out with current price action to past price action with gold, which I haven't looked at. I mean, I haven't looked at that. It'll be interesting to maybe look at that in a few years. I'm sure people will be, I'm sure. It's possible. But until I actually evaluate and start to see some sort of a positive correlation existing between the price action today versus when gold got its ETF, then Bitcoin's chart speaks for itself. Any questions? Oh, stop, Juan. I can't name everybody, my friend. Yeah, I don't think Bitcoin's going to 200,000. I wish it would, but oh man, Donkey, I don't know what to tell you, man. If you're that salty on cash, man, you should just sell. Nobody's holding you back. No, I don't think so, Raghorn. I hear your concern, but if you have, especially if you have sell limit orders set up, you have designated price levels, you're looking to sell your Bitcoin, you're not going to have any issues selling your Bitcoin. That's what I would also say to people who have issues where Coinbase is going down. Put in some sell limit orders. You're not going to run into an issue then. Your sell limit order should execute. I mean, that's what I plan on doing, just to let you know. I'm not planning on counting on being able to get into the exchanges to sell. I can utilize my Ledger for some of that and my SafePal for some of that. I can also use Coinbase for some of that with some sell limit orders. Hell, you can use Uphold for some sell limit orders. Same with Mexi. I mean, there's multiple options where you can put some sell limit orders in place. It'll happen, but the more my portfolio goes up, the more anxious I get about taking profits to lock in gains. I have not taken any profits. Would I take profits if we went below $50,000? It's a really interesting question. What I would say to that is you always need to have a plan, else you're planning to fail. So I think it's a very good question. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, guys. As always, I have this Instacart order. I just want to make sure this person is not showing up right away. And I'm going to get to your question. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be off before then. All right. It's a really good question to ask, which is, if price were to break down to a certain level, when would you consider saying you're wrong, right? Well, I mean, ultimately, for me, I mean, to really be convinced that we're having a true breakdown, we'd have to go significantly lower than 50,000. I mean, really, this is the bottom right here of your wave two. So as long as you don't invalidate that, I mean, you could even come, guys, you could come all the way down to, you could in theory, just to make it clear to you, I think where I would get nervous is if $28,000 breaks down. Because in this, again, this kind of gets back to what we were speaking to earlier. This is a major area of price confluence that once we broke it, we never backtested. So in theory, there could be, and nobody can ever, it would have to be a black swan event. Nobody can predict black swan events. And if somebody gets a black swan event correct, let me be clear about this. People are always calling for black swan events. Eventually, someone's going to hit, right? So if you see someone that was calling for something, congratulations. There have been a million calls for black swan events, World War III. How many times were we going to get into World War III, right? Not to scoff at World War III, but case in point. So, yes, barring some black swan event, if we did get one, like a beer virus, I would look for this area to hold. And as long as we don't invalidate these lows down here at like 25,000, so we could come down to 20, even 26,000, then it's the structure's still in place, Oof. You have to, I'm looking at this from an Elliott wave principles perspective, right? You could, in theory, have I mean, you could come down to 26 and you'd be fine. You could have wait, hold on. 26 divided by 69 point, where the heck's price at? 1.5. Wow. I mean, technically, you could have a 62% correction from here and you'd still be fine. So, I hope that answers your question. I mean, if I wouldn't be selling if we broke down below 50, I'm still holding. I would just be buying the shit out of everything if we got into this area. If something happened and we broke down, and came down here, I would be buying the piss out of everything like I did back in March of 20. But I would not be selling if we broke 50K. Careful, if we could come down to 58 or 59. I wouldn't. I'm just telling you, charts I'm looking at, I think I would not rule it out of the realm of possibility that we come down to 58 or 59. I'm not telling you today we're coming down to 58 to 59. I wouldn't rule that out, man. I think you need to do what you need to do. I'm never going to give you financial advice, but 59 is my level in the sand to sell 30% of my portfolio. You do what you're a very well-educated individual, I can tell. So if that's what you need to do to feel comfortable and lock in some profits, I can't fault you for that because no one ever got hurt taking a profit. But I did see the argument a week or two ago for us breaking down to 58 to 59, and I still see that as a possibility. Where did we come down to here? We wicked down to 60, 70, 60. Now, I don't think we're going to go that low. There were some charts I was looking at earlier showing me we could still have a little bit more downside. We could chop around in April, but we can assess that later in the week and next week. I think the next week or two could be... I think this week and even next week could just be a lot of chippy-choppy stuff before we actually start moving. All right, guys. As always, hit the thumbs up button. Drop me a comment. Let me know that you've been here and what you think of the content. What could I do differently? What do you like about the content? And until next time, everybody, which will be tomorrow for the 1-year anniversary of the All in the Charts live stream, let's all spread awareness and let's carry the education forward. Let me know what you thought about the backwards math algebra, because it is a very sensical approach to coming up with a topping zone. Cheers, everybody.